Thankfully, the tide has begun to turn. Sometimes I hear the phrase, the science changed. The science hasn't changed. What's changed is that there's an election coming, and Democrats have seen the polling on this question. Now they're running scared, and they want to pretend that they didn't force your kid to wear a mask for 2 years. You can see it in states that are run entirely by Democrats. California, New Jersey, New York, the president's own Delaware. Just yesterday, across the river in Virginia, the state Senate, to include many Democrats, voted not just to allow parents a choice, but to prohibit mask mandates by local schools. Yet in many places, forced masking remains. Kids as young as 2, 3, 4 are still being forced to wear hot, restricted, and ineffective masks for hours on end. Yes, ineffective, because almost all those kids are wearing cloth masks, which don't even work. And that's not me speaking, that's the CDC speaking. These masks don't even work. Yet the kids are forced to wear them all day long. And I can tell you that most Democratic politicians don't think they work either. How do we know that? Look at the candidate for governor in Georgia, Stacey Abrams. Or maybe I should say the governor of Georgia, since she still refuses to concede the 2018 election, and many of my Democratic colleagues have endorsed her view that she is somehow the shadow governor of Georgia. Just last week, photos emerged of her sitting in classrooms with masked kids grinning ear to ear, the only person not wearing a mask in the classroom. Or Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who was yucking it up at SoFi Stadium when the Rams played the 49ers, taking pictures without a mask with Magic Johnson and a bunch of other celebrities while he enforced one of the most onerous mask mandates in the country. What about Eric Garcetti, whose nomination to be the ambassador to India is in front of the Senate right now, who said that pictures of him without a mask on are fine because he was holding his breath? I guess it's like Bill Clinton, who didn't inhale. Or Barack Obama. Pictures recently emerged of him standing outside on the beach without a mask while all the peons who are building his multi-million-dollar beach compound were forced to wear a mask in front of him. And I'll let you in on something. The same goes for Democratic senators. I was in a hearing this week. It was in a small, closed room. Not a single Democratic senator wore a mask in that hearing, in that room. The catch is the TV cameras weren't on, so there wouldn't be video of them sitting in that closed room without a mask on. But masks in school have become symbols of control and fear. They're not instruments of public health. It's past time for the mask mandates to end and for parents across this country to have a choice. That's why I'm asking the Senate to pass my legislation today to require schools that receive federal funding to give parents a simple choice on whether their kids should wear a mask. And if my Democratic colleagues will join me, we can get this done now, today. That's why I urge them to support this bill. And I ask, Mr. President, as if in legislative session, unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of S3604, which is at the desk. Further, I ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, reserving the right to object.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have said before, we all want to make sure our schools can stay safely open for in-person learning. But based on this legislation, it's not clear that's true for all of my Republican colleagues. Look, this is straightforward. If you want education decisions to happen at the local level, you do not tie the hands of state and local officials when they are trying to keep their students and educators safe. And if you want schools to be able to stay safely open and bring some stability and certainty back to our classrooms, you don't cut schools off from the resources they need just because you think you know better than the parents and local officials about how this pandemic is progressing in their community or how they should use tools like masks. Mr. President, I am a former preschool teacher, parent advocate, and school board member. But let's be honest, you don't need classroom experience to see that right now, the very last thing we should be doing is denying schools the tools and resources to help kids learn safely. The data is clear. We've got real work to do to help our students make up for an incredibly tough 2 years. Now, Democrats actually passed legislation, the American Rescue Plan, which invests specifically in helping our students recover academically and mentally. The proposal from the senator from Arkansas would put our students' recovery and safe in-person learning in jeopardy. It would take those important public health decisions, which should be based on local conditions, away from those communities and slash funding for students in schools right when they need us the most. Now is not the time to pull the rug out from under students in schools. Parents, educators, and most of all kids have been through enough. I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President,
The senator from Arkansas.
I would simply reply to the remarks from the senator from Washington. She asserted that I or others who oppose these mask mandates think that we know better. That's the whole point, though, Mr. President. It's not that we think we know better. I think that you, as a parent, knows better. You know what's best for your child, not some Democratic politician, not some liberal superintendent, not some neurotic public health obsessive. And apparently the Democrats have no problem using these federal funds when it suits their neurotic policies. After all, the Department of Education last year threatened federal funding for states and schools that did not permit mask mandates. So the whole point of this exercise, Mr. President, is it's the Democrats who think they know better than parents to make the choices for the parents' kids. I'm disappointed today that my Democratic colleagues want to continue to see kids forced to wear masks in schools across America. But trust me, change is coming one way or the other. It'll be because Democratic politicians like Gavin Newsom run for the hills or because the American people repudiate them all in November. I yield the floor.